So I'm with Eric Norrie, President and CEO of Tantalus. Thanks so much for being with us.
Good evening.
Could you start off by telling us about Tantalus and where you guys are from and how long you've been in the business?
Absolutely. So our company was founded in 1989, and it started as a communications engineering house. And since 1999, we've been looking at the utility space specifically, and we see ourselves as an enabling technology. We're all about communications, but as an enabling technology, our job is really to take the communications side of a problem and use it to enhance the value of the existing assets, processes, and procedures that a utility already has.
All right, so that's cool, 50,000 foot. What does that really mean from an operational standpoint?
You know, operationally, that looks like things like automated metering infrastructure, or what they used to call automated meter reading. Basically, substituting labor for technology in some relatively low value-added activities, labor activities, that sometimes cost the utility significantly. And applications like that are load management that help a utility average out the overall cost of energy they deliver to their customers, and hence the average monthly bill a customer would be paying.
So are there certain types of competitive advantage as it relates to the types of communications that you provide these utilities that maybe some of your competitors don't necessarily have?
Well, I mean, from our perspective, we've focused on a couple of key things. First and foremost, in a utilities domain, connectivity, or the ability to ensure every customer is connected, is a key issue. And to do this at a low price point, or a reasonable price point, is critical. And so one of the key competitive advantages that we first set out to demonstrate in the cooperative, or the very low density rural applications, is our ability to connect. And that started out to be demonstrated through meter reading, which was the first applications utilities really looked at doing. But ultimately it's going to be more and more relevant as demand response, or load management, and energy storage and distributed generation get adopted by technologies in the future.
And how, talk to us a little bit about how over the past couple of years you've seen these technologies evolve. And where is it going?
Well, you know, the marketing side of the vendor community has coined the term smart grid. In all reality, a lot of what is the smart grid utilities have been doing for quite some time, and we're really looking at driving those practices in a more systematic fashion, or at a more effective price point. So what we've seen over time, and I think why we're becoming more relevant in the marketplace, is historically utilities looked at the communications that they were purchasing as a data acquisition vehicle. And the industry's really evolved from data acquisition to more of a command and control, not only understanding what's going on, but affecting some sort of action that either enhances customer service, reduces overall cost, or reduces the downside of energy delivery.
And so as companies like yourselves are trying to enable this smart grid, what's the underlying solution that you're saying this is our approach to the problem?
Well, our approach to the problem basically has three legs to this stool. First and foremost, it has to make good operational sense. So we look at a problem and say, first and foremost, it has to be an operational problem. Either we're reducing the cost to serve, we're enhancing the time, or the relevance of the information that we're getting. And those are things like automated meter reading, being able to restore more effectively energy when you have an outage, and look at things like voltage sag and swell, or power quality issues, and take evasive action in a timely fashion. And that's why, of course, connectivity is so important, because you're dealing with a number of disparate devices across the service territory. We also look at, from a cost perspective, the requirement to minimize the infrastructure or the communications cost to the overall utility problem. And so we look at being able to substitute a variety of communications technologies that the utility may have already purchased or is looking at purchasing, and be able to leverage them in a cohesive communications solution.
Okay.
And our ability to migrate between technologies as they evolve is one of the things that I think separates us. Because utilities, they look at these problems in terms of decades. Most other industries look at a 3 to 5 year technology horizon. Utilities, 10, 20, 30 years. So whatever they decide to use, they need to ensure that it's going to remain relevant over the course of the decades it's in use.
So what's the role? What kind of role does fiber, take into the solutions that you're offering?
Well, that's a great question. Fiber is one of those technologies that offers huge bandwidth and is being installed more and more as we drive to a more connected world. And some of the technologies that we've developed now allow us to provide solutions to a utility that rides on top of existing fiber or DSL infrastructure. So basically, we're taking an asset that's already put in place to serve utility customers with internet access, streaming video, IPTV, and add smart grid applications on top of it. And the two real benefits there are, first and foremost, leveraging an infrastructure that's already in place instead of putting a parallel infrastructure in place. But the other real benefit that we're looking at is there's a medium that really helps the utility engage their customer base, because it's already provides a number of visual entrees into the household and helps the utility customer understand cost of power, availability, and some of the things the smart grid's trying to deliver. When I look at the strength of energy delivery in North America, historically utilities haven't been rewarded for being innovative so much as they've been rewarded for delivering a superior reliability, 4 nines, 5 nines of performance. So what's really happening with the smart grid is the fundamentals of energy delivery are changing. And utilities are trying to balance continued service delivery with predicting the future. And there are a number of challenges or a number of questions they face right now. How quickly will distributed generation evolve? Will technologies like fuel cells really emerge? Will electric vehicles be largely battery operated, or will hydrogen fuel ultimately prevail? And these are all questions that the book's not written on yet, or the chapter's not written on yet. And so when I look at the challenges that utilities are faced with, what really strikes me is, from our perspective, enabling utilities to mitigate their risk and put solutions in place for today and the near future, while still enabling them to adapt depending on which technologies prevail. And I think a question of distributed generation or electric vehicles is a great illustration. We don't know how they'll end up, but either way, utilities will play a significant support role in their mass adoption in the future.
For a lot of the folks that are in these rural towns, they don't really have much of a choice as to who they can select as their utility provider. So I'm curious to know, why do utilities want to work with folks like you when customer service doesn't necessarily matter because they have that customer?
Well, I think the fact that you have a customer doesn't necessarily mean you don't want to serve them well. And we started out in the small power industry because we observed that cooperatives and municipalities tend to look at customer service as an integral part to what they do and who they are. And customer service ranks high on their priorities going forward. And so my view is that as the world changes and technologies like energy storage and electric vehicles enter commercial production, how the utilities support these services and deliver support services to their customers is a critical part of who utilities are evolving to be.
I'd like to know personally why the industry is intriguing to you, why you're in this business, and why ultimately you're doing what you're doing.
Well, it's interesting. I started looking at this issue from an aging infrastructure perspective. And one of the really interesting things about infrastructure in general in North America is that it is a large part of who we are as a nation. And we take it for granted. And it has been in place in the utility space in many cases since the 50s and 60s. And understanding how to extend its useful life and continue to use it without damaging it as our individual electric footprint goes up was very interesting to me. What I've found as time goes on is I'm probably a little bit of a closet greenie. This is an industry that's fascinating to me because of the environmental issues, because of the social issues, and because of what I'm learning more about what utilities have done for us in North America. Clearly, our cost of energy has been a competitive advantage on the world stage for quite a while, and we need to continue that capability as emerging economies, threaten our dominant position globally.